Hi everyone, I'm Luke Rhodes, a chef here at the Sheffield University. I work at Halifax Hotel, and I don't know if any of you have seen, but this year I featured on MasterChef Professionals 2020. As part of the Christmas cook together, I thought I'd jump in and make a video for you, and I'm going to show you how to make a Yorkshire Toad it all with a little bit of a festive twist with a root vegetable gratin. So yeah, let's get to it. So first thing, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to wrap a pig in blanket. It's not the hardest job in the world, but there is a nice process to make sure that your bacon don't fall off your sausage. So here I've got some nice spiced Lincolnshire sausage, full of spices that you get through Christmas. So there's a lot of thyme in there, a lot of garlic, a lot of clove, so a bit of cinnamon. So it's got a nice festive note to the sausage. So first thing we're going to do is get a nice red board. Make sure you've wiped down first. Put your red board down. You've got 4 pieces of bacon, and all you want to do is just scrape the bacon with a knife, and all that does is it makes it a little bit longer, a little bit thinner and easier to wrap around the sausage. So I don't know if you can see that. So it's made it a lot longer than this one, and then it's just going to be easier to wrap. So we'll do that with all the slices, and then we'll go on to wrapping sausage. So once you've got it scraped out, it literally is as easy as that. Start on one end, and what you want to do is roll and pull tight as you're rolling, and just wrap your sausage in bacon, and that is all you do. And you end up with the seal end on the bottom, and then that will sit in your tray. In this tray that we're going to do the Yorkshire pudding in, there's just a little bit of veg oil. You're going to put all your sausage in, and then we'll come back to that later on as we're going to go and cook the Yorkshire pudding. So once you've wrapped all these sausages, get them in that tray, and then we'll move on to the next stage. So idea with this recipe is it's ideally made for 2. So there's 2 sausages each wrapped in bacon, a nice big Yorkshire pudding, and a root vegetable gratin that will easily feed 2 people, if not 3. So once you've got your sausage and your bacon in that tray, we're going to get that in the oven a little bit later on when it's time to get your oil out for your Yorkshire pudding, because you want to start cooking the bacon and the sausage. You don't want to overcook it though. It's going to be in the oven for around half an hour. So you just want to get that sealed so it doesn't unravel, and get your oil nice and hot and infused with that bacon and sausage fat for when we cook as Yorkshire pudding. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop that to one side. Leave it at room temp, you're fine. Pop it to one side, I'm going to have a good wipe down because we've been using raw meat, and then I'll get onto root vegetable gratin. Right, so what I've done now, I had a good wipe down. Obviously raw meat, you don't want no cross-contamination. So we've got 2 things left to do. We've got the Yorkshire pudding batter to make, which I'm going to get on first, and then we'll do the root vegetable gratin. Well, it's very important with Yorkshire pudding. What you're going to get in your packs is my recipe. So normally I weigh my recipe out. I know a lot of people just do it by eye, or they'll do it in a cup. The way I do it is I weigh 3 eggs. I normally work for around 3 eggs for around 3 people. That's normally about 150 grams if you get a normal sized egg. So I've got 3 eggs, and then 150 mils of milk, 150 grams of milk, and 150 grams of flour. So it's equal amounts. So it's still the same process, but it's just the way I do it, and I've always done it, and it always seems to work. One of the things that you don't realise with Yorkshire puddings is salt. Salt is an anti-caking agent, which means that you'll get a lighter Yorkshire pudding. It'll aid in rise, but you'll still get that nice dense puddingy bit on bottom. So you'll think that I'm putting quite a lot of salt in here, but you need a good couple of pinches, because that's going to help uncoagulate the flour. So always start with your liquid first. So you just want to whisk your eggs and your milk together with your salt and get that in. And then once it's all added, I've got 150 grams of flour here, and you just want to add it as you're whisking, because you want to try and keep it lumpless. Nobody likes a lumpy Yorkshire pudding batter because it don't cook properly. So once you've got all your flour in, just make sure you get a right good whisk, and then you just want to set that to one side, because if you overwork the batter, you'll start working the gluten in it, and it'll become dense and it won't rise. So you just got to whisk it enough to get your flour incorporated, which that is now, and you've got a nice Yorkshire pudding batter that's nicely seasoned. For a little bit of difference, if you like it, you can add anything to this. You could put a teaspoon of mustard in it, a teaspoon of horseradish. You can put any spices you want in it. And I'm just going to stick with basic Yorkshire pudding because there's a lot of spices and herbs and stuff that's gone in the gratin, so when you eat it all together you'll get that. So that's just a standard Yorkshire pudding batter. So now that's done, we'll get on to the root vegetable gratin. So in this pan of cream, we've got some thyme, some bay leaf, and a little bit of seasoning, and I'm going to slice this onion nice and fine and start infusing the cream with onion, and then we're going to put 2 cloves of garlic in as well. So let's get on to that. Right, so you want to slice this onion like you're doing it for fried onions. So the way I always do it is top and tail it, cut it in half, and then this first layer normally just peels away once you've cut top and bottom off. If you think that your onion's a little bit, if you think that first layer of onion's not very clever, you can always just pop that first layer off and just pull it away, and then you're left with another nice half an onion. So where you want to go from then is clove of garlic, knife on top, just give it a bang, and that'll crush your garlic. You're not looking to have big chunks of garlic in it because nobody likes thick garlic. So give it a good bang, and what you're going to do with that is just chop it very coarsely, but because you've banged it, you've erupted all fibres of that garlic, so when you put that in your cream and you start to boil it, it'll pretty much just disappear. It'll just disappear into your sauce, and it'll infuse your cream with a nice garlic flavour. So when you cut this, obviously as you can see with this onion, you can see a natural line in your onion. You want to follow that line, but you want it as thin as possible because this is going to cook in the same time that your Yorkshire pudding is going to cook, which is in the oven for 30 minutes at 180. So you've got to make sure your veg is nice and thin so it does cook at the same time, because it's a nice 30-minute meal. It's done in half an hour, so you want to cut it nice and fine. So as you can see with this, you can see the knife through the onion. Now I'm a chef, I'm a professional chef. I've cut onions for many years, so you're not going to be able to do it as quick as me. You might be able to, but just take your time and just try and make sure that you get your onion as thin as possible, because you want it to pretty much cook in that cream and infuse that cream with a nice onion garlic flavour, and then it's going to help bulk out the layers in your gratin. So once that's cut up, we're going to bring this pan off, and this is just, like I said, it's got the cream, the thyme, the bay leaf, and you're just going to pop in your onion and your garlic, and then you want to bring that pretty much to a boil. And what that's going to do is it's going to soften all that onion, it's going to soften that garlic to take that bitterness, the harsh bitterness out, and then it's going to help when you come to layer your gratin. So once that's in, we can move on to the vegetables in the gratin. So I'm going to get that on high heat now, just to start bringing that cream up to boil. And when you're doing something like this, especially when you're working with cream and veg, luckily with this recipe you don't have to peel your veg, but you just want to make sure that you're nice and clean, nice and organised, and then there's no pots to do after. So as soon if you're nice and organised, you're laughing really. So in the root veg, you've got carrot, potato and parsnip. Traditional, what you'd get on a Christmas dinner anyway. You've got your roast parsnips, you've got your roast carrot. So what you're going to do with this is take the top and the bottom off the parsnip and the carrot. So that is about as much prep as you need to do on them two. The potato, now it's up to you how you slice this. I'm going to slice it so it sits nice and flat on board, there's no danger in me cutting myself, and all you're going to do is slice it nice and thin into discs of potato, and that is going to help build your layer of your gratin, and it's going to help cooking in 30 minutes. So all you do is just cut this up as well as you can into nice discs. business end when it starts getting a little bit close. So that's about as much potatoes as you need. Don't try and go all the way to end because you don't want to slip and cut yourself. So you've got your potato, and then with your parsnip, you're going to cut your parsnip in half and run away a carrot, and then just cut it down into similar shapes, nice and thin. And then same again with this half. So a parsnip is definitely going to cook in half an hour. It only takes about 8.5 minutes to cook a parsnip through from raw, fully cooked. But when obviously you don't want to be cutting through your gratin when it's done and having that raw veg, because it's just not going to be nice, especially when your yolk is done, and it's just going to be a nightmare. So it's just about making sure that you've got all your stuff in place at the right time. So when you build it, you can get it all at the same time, and then hopefully half an hour later you'll have a delicious dinner. So once your carrots and your parsnips are cut, and your potato, you can start looking at getting this built. So you've got your carrot, your potato and your parsnip, and that is going to make up your gratin. We've got a nice half 1-3 gastro here to cook it in. Closest you'll get to this is a loaf tin. You can pick loaf tins up from pretty much anywhere. I know, like supermarkets, they're only a couple of quid. If you've got one at home, happy days. If not, you can just go buy one. If you needed to do a bigger tray, because you've only got a bigger tray, do another potato, another parsnip, another carrot, and you'll probably have enough to make a bigger tray. But for this recipe, we're just doing this size because this will ideally feed three people, 2 if you're nice greedy portion. So what we're going to do now, as you can see, the onion has started to soften in the cream. The cream's come up to boil. Started with that infusing. Now crack that heat up as full as it'll go, and you want a nice rapid boil because you want that onion semi-soft before you start building it, because otherwise it just won't build properly. So what we'll do is first we'll put a layer of potato on the bottom to create a base, and you just want to slightly overlap your potato when you build it, and this is going to give you a nice sturdy base for your gratin. So you've got enough potato there for top and bottom, and then you're going to fill centre with parsnip and carrot and your onion mix. So when you're building a gratin, ideally you want to season every 3rd layer. So don't season every layer because it'll be too salty. So once you've done this, you can sprinkle your carrot, because your carrot's nice and fine and it's cut thin. You sprinkle your carrot in. Your parsnip's a little bit bigger, so we'll get that built in. And then you're at the stage where you're at the layer that you can season it. So just run over a tiny little bit of salt, just to help when you pour your cream in, to help season that veg, because you don't want it under seasoned because it just won't be very pleasant to eat. So once that's in, you can run over with a tiny little bit of salt just to help season up the vegetables. Now my cream is boiling rapidly. So now I'm going to start ladling in a little bit of the cream on bottom, just to start filling the bottom of the tin. Right, pause that so I've got a ladle. Oh, in fact, it's alright, I'll use this. Right, so it's alright, you can leave the thyme in. Onions have softened off, you can smell garlic, it's really nice and pungent. Just put in some onions and spread them across, and pour in some of the cream until you can see it in your gratin. Because you're going to do, when you put the top layer of potato on, what you're going to do is push it down, so all the cream's sat nice and it's just sat there living its best life. So you're going to go on with the rest of your onion, your parsnip and your carrot, and you've got your onion layer at centre now as well. and you just want to make sure that it's all level, all even. There will be some breadcrumbs as well to go on top of this, but you don't put breadcrumbs in from start because by the time it's finished doing, they'll have burnt. So once you've got your carrot and your parsnip, just give it a little push down to make sure it's nice and level, and then you can go on with the rest of your cream and onion mix. And then you can push this down with your spoon. Like I've got chef's hands, so that's not really up to me, but you can use a good sized spoon and just push it down, and you'll start seeing that cream popping up. And what will happen, don't think, oh, there's not enough liquid in here, because there is, because when it starts cooking, your vegetables will start releasing their own natural juices, so there's plenty of liquid in the recipe. So once you've got all that nice and flat, you're going to do it again in a second, but first we're going to put the last layer of potato on, and it's like a bottom and a top of potato, and then you've got all your nice root veg floating around in middle, and your onions. So once you've got that on, spread it out into corners nice and neat, and then we'll push it down again with this and make sure that it's nice and flat. So once you've done that, season the top, because that'll help with colouring at potatoes, and it'll season obviously the top layer. So that is now ready for oven. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop this with your sausage and your oil wrapped in bacon, all lovely. You're going to pop that in the oven for around 10 minutes, 200. So what you want to do is you want to get that oil screaming hot, and then you're going to drop oven to 180, and both will cook at 180. So we're going to get this in and get these sausages started cooking, get this fat nice and hot, and then we'll bang out light in the oven. So these have been in the oven for 10 minutes, and as you can see, they've started releasing all that nice fat. That fat's nice and hot, so we're going to get in a Yorkshire pudding batter now. Don't just pour it straight on top of the sausages, try and work round edge of tray, move your sausages in if you need to, and get a spatula in and make sure you get all that Yorkshire pudding batter out, because then you're going to get a good pudding. So once you've done this, both the gratin and the pudding, back in the oven half an hour, and then we should be good to go. So so these have been in the oven for about half an hour. As you can see, Yorkshire pudding's nicely risen, it's nice and crisp, sausages are nice and coloured, and your gratin's cooked. Do check after half an hour though, if you've not been able to cut your gratin thin enough, just stick a knife in it, and just to make sure that your knife goes through clean, to make sure that it's cooked properly. So to serve this, I've just knocked up a little bit of thyme jus. You can just use gravy, it's fine, but we like to be a bit posh and a bit chefy. So plating a portion up. Yorkshire pudding should just come straight out of tin. And obviously, like I said before video, that it's ideally made for 2 people. You could get 4 out of that pudding, but obviously you'd have to put more sausage in it. So always take your sausage out before you cut up a portion. So I'm just going to cut up a nice rectangle of pudding, and you want that height on it. Sit your sausage inside, and then we've come over to gratin, and just, this is not designed to come out looking pretty, it's just filthy. So you want it to be nice and creamy and oozy, and it's full of thyme and garlic and onion. And then once you've done that, spoon, and just nappy some jus over sausages and into Yorkshire pudding. So there you go. That's the festive take on a Yorkshire classic in Toad in Hole with root vegetable gratin. We have a good Christmas, and hopefully see you in New Year.